So I was down in my basement, I don't know, like several months ago at this point, and I was cleaning out some old boxes, and I came across this brochure. This is what I used to use at bridal shows. This is what I used to check this out, dude.
Very nice.
Look at this whole thing.
Very,
It was glossy black. It had to be glossy black back in, this is, I guess, 2006. And, you know, everybody had glossy 5x9 cards.
Yep.
And look at the graphic design on that thing, man.
I know you got some like tribal up here. You got faded text in the background.
So on the front it says, for the people watching, it says Rob Adams Productions, because that's what the company was named at that time. Wedding video for people who don't want a wedding video.
I like the phrase. I like the catchphrase.
I used to fucking kill with that catchphrase. I considered going back to it.
So were you doing like the feature film looking things back then?
No. So this was all video camera. Wasn't even HD at this point. I was shooting with the Panasonic DVX100A.
It wasn't this big ass camera, right?
And I had one of those.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's not exactly the camera. I thought it was cool to actually market with that looking camera, because that's what most people used.
Right.
And when you thought of wedding videographers, you thought of these guys that carry these big cameras on their shoulders.
Exactly.
And I had a Sony DSR 300 or something like that.
Right.
And it was a very popular camera at the time. But anyway, that was my logo. And then on the back of that was my offerings. Now, that was my base offering. Let me see that so I could read it off.
I was going to say, I'm noticing one thing. The price isn't on there. Is there a reason for that?
Well, I think, I mean, that was part of the strategy at the time. But more importantly, this is what I was offering.
Okay.
All right. It says, your creative input determines exactly how your wedding video will be made and what it will ultimately contain. But all of our productions, include the following: custom opening title sequence, 25 photo then and now montage, bride's preparations. I guess that just means coverage. And I think I did a bride's prep montage too. That was only the bride's prep. Single camera ceremony coverage, creative love story session and edit. That's a whole pre-shoot. 5-hour reception coverage, highlights, wedding day recap, custom animated credits and bloopers, 3 custom authored DVDs in cases, and raw unedited footage on separate discs, and cinematic artwork and editing.
I mean, that sounds like a deal, and definitely worth like the $600.
Do you want to know how much I was paying? I was charging for that?
What was it?
Take a guess.
What year is it?
2006.
2006.
Take a guess.
I want to say maybe $2,500.
$2,600.
That's a lot for $2,600.
That was a good guess. $2,600, dude. I was busting my ass.
I'd imagine so.
The amount of work.
How big of a crew was there for this?
Dude, I used to work by myself.
Wow.
It would be just me. Notice it didn't say groom's prep. I wasn't even sophisticated enough for groom's prep yet. I was going to the bride's prep, and I didn't even put a limit on hours, man. I would be there all day and night. I would usually start about 2 hours before the photographer got there, and I would leave. I would stay to the end of the night.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. So I was offering all this, charging $2,600, and for me that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, I wasn't established in my business, and I was working for other people, and I was thinking, man, $2,600, like that's a lot of money, and I can, it was more money than I certainly had ever made up to that point in my career, especially in radio. So I was excited to offer that, and then I had upgrades and options on here too. They could do like a documentary and reality package. That was like literally I used to do like a reality show.
And is this before the Jersey Shore? I need to know this. This is important.
This is before Jersey Shore. This was right around the time that all those wedding reality shows were really popular.
Okay.
So like, God, I don't even remember. It was before Say Yes to the Dress, and I don't know. There were a few wedding shows. Oh, it was The Love Story. It was the Wedding Story show. I think it was called The Wedding Story. Anyway, people were bananas over that shit. Extended highlights montage, a 10 to 12 minute creative montage of your entire day. So I was doing like a short form as an upgrade, and I was probably charging $300. I wasn't charging a lot of money. I was giving away the farm, giving it away. And this is what, now I look at my business and I look at what I'm charging now, and I'm very fortunate for what I can charge now. But this got me thinking really hard about how hard I was working, how much blood, sweat, and effort and sweat equity I was putting into my business, and the return on investment, although I thought it was a lot at the time. If I would have broken that down to what I was earning hourly, I probably wasn't earning even what like somebody at McDonald's thinking about what I was charging then got me thinking about like a lot of videographers today. Like I think I see a lot of guys today definitely charging a lot less than what they're worth and what the work commands. Now that was 2006. Think about how much more goes into it now and how much more we can do now on a level of quality, right? So it inspired me to make like a spreadsheet that shows you exactly, it'll break everything down.
Okay.
In your with your business expenses and your income to show you what you're earning per hour, because most videographers, I think in my opinion, don't do the math when it comes to their business. They're just not doing it.
$3,100, $3,600, it sounds like a lot of money for, one day. That's what they think.
And it depends on what market you're in, like what your market can command, and I understand that. But I wanted to share this with everybody to kind of give you an idea of how to look at the numbers realistically in your business and not just say, well, okay, I'm going to charge $4,000 for a wedding video and assume all of that is profit.
Okay.
I mean, I know you think about, okay, I got to pay. Maybe I have to pay a second shooter, or maybe I have to hire an assistant, or I have to pay an editor. And yeah, you do factor in that as your expenses, but there's so much more that goes into the business.
Well, exactly. If you want the business to last, you actually have to be a business, not just a freelancer who's not even running a proper business, legally running a proper business.
Right. I forgot to hit screen record. I'm going to just do that real quick. New screen recording. There we go. All right. So check this out. So this is the screenshot. Well, sorry.
Recording
Hold
yet.
on. There we go. Make sure it's going. So check this out. This is the spreadsheet that I made, and I'm happy to make this available to everybody so they can play around and put their own numbers in and use it. And I wouldn't say it's an exact tool. I wouldn't say this is meant to like actually plan your business. You definitely want to go a little bit further in depth on some of this stuff, but I think it'll give you a pretty good idea of how much money you're really making when you factor everything in. There's so much more to factor in. Look at how much crap is on here.
Right, of course.
There's a ton of shit that's involved with running your business. So let me just kind of break this down for you so you can understand what's happening here. There are 3 major sections. All right. Over here on the left-hand side, you have liabilities. That's all of this in this white area. Right next to that is assets and cash flow. That is your income. Okay, that's basically what the revenue that your business is generating.
Okay.
And then down here on the bottom, this is where everything's going to be kind of tallied and totaled up, and you can get a big picture of your business.
Okay.
Just by putting in some numbers. So let's just go ahead and start with, before we even get into like income, what do you have to do when you start a business?
Right. You need to get your like LLC format and get gear and education.
Gear, right? You have to buy your shit. You have to have stuff that you're going to use to shoot the weddings, right?
Right.
So let's just assume this is for somebody who's going into business. Right? I mean, you could even use this as a retroactive tool, and maybe you're established already, but let's just assume we're somebody starting out. So let's think about cameras. Let's just say we're going to start out with 2 cameras. We're going to pick up a couple of, what's the most popular wedding film camera at this point?
5D Mark IV.
5D Mark IV. So we can get like 2 used ones for what? $3,000 a piece?
I'd say about 25, 26.
Let's say with batteries.
Okay, $3,000. Let's just say with the accessories to use a thing, $3,000.
All right, so let's do this. Let's just do $2,500 for cameras. We're gonna do 2 of them, right? So that's $5,000 on cameras. Lenses. Let's just say you go out and you grab. You need like a 70 to 200. Let's assume you want a wide, so you get a 16 to 35. Do some math in your head and try to calculate this.
Man,
and let's think about used equipment.
Okay,
like, because I mean, it's cool to buy brand new, but let's just face it. If you're getting into business, why not just start with used stuff?
Exactly.
You're gonna beat the crap out of it anyway, right?
1635, about $1,000. The 7200 might be somewhere in the ballpark of about maybe $1,500 or about 26 right
26.
now. Let's say
a 24 to 70. I mean, assuming you're not buying primes, I'm assuming you're going with just zoom ranges that are going to cover the focal lengths that you want.
I would say about 1,500 again, so we're at 3,100 right now.
Let's all right. So let's keep it. I'm going to use conservative numbers here too,
right,
because I don't want people to think that I'm inflating numbers,
right,
to make this seem more. To make it seem worse than it is. You know what I mean? So let's just assume you're going to spend $3,000, and I think that's a low ball number.
Right.
All right. Power and batteries. We kind of included batteries in the price of the cameras. Well, no, we didn't. No, we said $2,500 a camera. So batteries, another $400 per camera unit, because you got to buy at least 6 batteries.
5D, yeah, you need like 3 or 4 per camera.
Let's say 400 in batteries. Okay. Rigging. So tripods. You pick up a couple tripods.
Yeah, the ones I have.
The Benros, right?
Yeah, Benros.
They're not bad. The Arrows, they're pretty good.
Yeah, those are about
300 a piece.
I think
Used. Think used.
Okay, used. Yeah, let's say 300 a piece.
Let's say 600 for rigging. Oh, monopod. Let's throw in 900.
That's what you need.
Cases. Get yourself a couple cases.
I do
carry
love
everything
cases.
around. You love, dude. You buy so many cases. It's ridiculous.
I do love my
Charles,
cases.
you are just the case. And that's another whole nother talk. We'll talk about this some other time. Cases. Let's figure what 500 on cases.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Lighting. This is where shit gets expensive.
Ooh, yeah,
now,
this gets wild too.
do you know what I see? I see so many people going out and their first lights are like fucking Practilights. I'm like, why are you spending $2,000 on lights? You don't. I still use the Felix P360s and they're awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
and they suit
right there.
Yeah, they suit most of my needs.
Mm-hmm.
If I need supplemental lighting, I'll rent based on the venue that I'm going to be at.
Exactly.
But no, I mean they usually work great. So let's assume you buy 2 of those. They're about $250 a pop used.
All right,
500. Yeah. Okay, we'll keep it conservative. So 500 for lighting. And then stands, you can include that in rigging. So like a couple of good light stands, 12-foot light stands. What are you looking at? 100 piece?
Yeah, about that.
1,100, we'll say. All right, so that ups our rigging cost. And then media, cards.
Oh, geez. You should definitely get good ones. I'd say that.
So SanDisk Extreme Pros.
Around $60 per card, and you should probably
get 8 cards.
Yeah, 60 times.
I don't know. Do you need 8? Let's say you get 128s. You'll be fine with 4. Get 4.
Yeah, 4 definitely. But if it's a 5D4, CF, and SD, so yeah, 4.
So $160 on
yeah.
cards. All right. Audio. This is the one area I would never say.
You've been saying that for years.
First of all, don't buy used when it comes to audio because audio gear gets beat up, and then when those internal mechanisms get, if you got shorts or a knob that's a little bit worn out.
I call those gremlins.
It can screw you up. So audio, I mean, get yourself a Zoom H6, brand new.
Yeah.
How much? 300?
I have a 350, I think.
So
yeah.
say 350 for a Zoom H6. Cables, you're gonna run, get a couple of XLR cables
and backup XLR cables.
Yeah, let's just put a round number on this. Oh, maybe a couple DR10s with
those
lav
are
mics.
often on sale, so those are sometimes around $160 or $199. So
and they'll come with a mic too.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great.
So let's say you buy 3 of those, 2 for the grooms, and then 1 for the officiant, or 1 for the groom, 1 for the officiant, 1 for the podium if you're doing churches. $1,100. It's about right for audio. I think you can get by with that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Gimbal and drone. If you're just starting out, do you really need it?
Absolutely no. No, you don't.
I think most of the new videographers I've seen, I'd say close to 100% of them are using gimbals and drones.
I would go as far as believe that I could see some people buy a gimbal before they buy the camera because it's just one of those like, hey, I need to have that
cool
that
gear.
thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Sorry.
Cool.
Let's say you can pick up a used Zion crane. I don't know, or most people are gonna go buy the Ronin, right? Let's be realistic. So $600 on a gimbal. Mm-hmm. Drone, you get a Mavic Pro used. You could pick one up for $800.
Probably.
Let's say $800. You get some batteries and a case or something.
Make sure
like
you
that,
get
right?
a license and all for that.
All right, cool. So right down at the bottom here, that's just our filming gear. You see how that's kind of broken down into 2 subcategories here: filming and editing. $13,160. That's lowball conservatives, considering you don't go absolutely batshit crazy in your purchasing decisions. Conservatively, you're going to spend around $13,000 on gear. Now let's talk about editing, and this really ups the game. You may or may not already have a computer, but if you're planning on shooting 4K, you're going to need a system that can handle it, right? So a good computer, a good Mac computer that's going to handle 4K with no problem. $3,000, $4,000?
$3,000.
Let's say $3,000. Let's say you're not going to go buy the new iMac Pro. All right. We'll be conservative here. Hard drives. I know I spend probably close to $1,000 a year just on drives.
I just spent that on a big old drive.
Well, yeah, you just bought a big NAS system.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to use that.
I'm talking more about like drives to back up your stuff.
Right.
Not online services, clouds. We'll get to that later.
You could say $75 for those little passport things, but you might want to get something better than that in case you drop it.
Let's just assume you're going to spend like $300 on drives.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to cover your needs, and you need a fast editing drive too. So like maybe $400 because you're going to get one of those like, RAID drives.
And then a backup for that drive. So yeah, I'd say $400.
Yeah, and maybe that's probably conservative too. Software. Let's just assume you're not going to do Adobe Creative Cloud. You're going to go the cheap route, and you're going to pay a $300 one-time purchase for Final Cut Pro 10.
Is that how much that is now?
$300. So it's always been $300. It's never been any other price than $300. And you think about how much more it includes now than when it first came out.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
the
actually
updates
pretty cool.
are always included with that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, they have not released a new paid update.
I mean, to be honest with you, sidebar. To be honest with you, one of the reasons why I switched back to Final Cut was just because I got tired of spending more and more money on Premiere.
Well, yeah, if you don't do work in After Effects, Audition, like if you're not doing your mixing in Audition and you don't use Photoshop or Lightroom, why are you going to spend all that money for the Creative Suite?
If you do use Photoshop and Lightroom, just get the Photography Suite. It's $10 a month versus $50.
I'm just assuming video, though.
Yeah.
All right, so miscellaneous plugins, apps, and etc. What I was thinking under this category, this would be like LUT packs, or if you want title packs. Let's just, I don't know, $100 for the whole year. You get everything you need, right? It's realistic. You can find stuff pretty cheap. Furniture and fixtures like a desk. You go out and get a desk. This is realistic. Let's say you set up shop somewhere.
I just did that.
Let's say you set up shop somewhere. You go to a Staples, you get the Sunday special. You walk out of there with a $300 desk. Okay?
I was going to say IKEA, but okay.
Either way. All right. So that now ups our initial investment under our liabilities category to $16,960. Let's just say 17.
Yeah.
Okay. 17 grand. All right. Now, something should have happened over here. Oh, no. Okay. Never mind. Now, let's move over before we get to cost of business and cost of sales. All right, I want to move over here to our actual service income. Okay. So all these other expenses are going to come into play soon. Let's just get an idea of what we're going to aim for in our first year in business.
Okay.
Let's assume we're starting out. Maybe you've apprenticed as a second shooter and you're ready to jump into your own game and you're going to plan on doing, I don't know what. Let's be optimistic. 30 weddings our first year.
I would say you're going to try to do as many as you can because you're going to be at a lower price point in most cases.
Maybe you've got some money. You go hit up a few bridal shows, walk out.
Exactly.
You know, and let's just assume throughout the course of the year you book 30 weddings, and that's optimistic. But let's shoot for the stars and hit the moon. And then average price per wedding. The average median price for a wedding film. I saw some statistics on the Knot, and you can fact check this. It was around $1,750. I think that's extremely low.
Wait, say that again for me.
The Knot had a survey a couple of years ago, not even that long ago, that said the average price of a wedding film in America was $1,750.
Oh wow,
that seems really low to me. I don't think it's accurate.
I hope it's not accurate.
Yeah, if that is the median price, I'll be very surprised and very dismayed at the same time. I think that most people, at least that I speak to, are charging somewhere when they're starting out in the neighborhood of $3,000. That seems to be what I hear from most people. I could be wrong. It depends on the market, and you might be charging more. But let's just go again, conservative numbers, right? Let's just go with 3,000.
All right.
You know what? Fuck it. Let's just go with 3,500. 3,500. Okay. Let's say you get some upsells, you do some upgrades, whatever. Okay. First thing you're going to notice down here on the bottom, that our total revenue before any expenses, 30 weddings at $3,500 a piece, is going to give us $105,000 in gross sales. Okay, looking down here on the bottom.
Yeah, gross, yep.
As of right now, our total costs are what we initially invested into the business. So that would be minus $16,980, giving us a net profit of $88,020.
Okay.
Now, Uncle Sam, as we all know, is going to reach his hand into your pocket, juggle your balls a little bit, and he's going to pull out about 35%.
Right.
Before deductions, before we calculate any of our deductions, which, if you're smart, you hire an accountant and they're going to make sure they do your taxes right, and you're going to take as many deductions as you can, right? Because all the stuff you just bought can be written off in a couple of different methods. It can be written off all at once, or it can be depreciated over time.
Right.
There's all different ways to do this. And again, not exact numbers here. This is just meant to give you an idea. Okay? Leaving you, minus that 35%, leaving you with a net income of $57,213. Now, most people just getting into a business might think to themselves, that's not bad. I'll take 60 grand a year, but that's not what you're earning. Okay,
right.
So let's take this another step further and let's see exactly what happens to that bottom line. That net income category is now your bottom line.
Okay.
And it says right there at the bottom, your net income divided by the amount of hours you work per year equals your hourly wage. We're going to get to that.
Okay.
All right. Let's jump back now and go over here to cost of business. Costs of business are your per year expenses. Cost of sales are your per job expenses. per year and per job. So you can think of it this way. Your cost of business is what it costs you to run your business.
Okay.
Your cost of sales is what it costs you to go out and do a job and bring money in. That's probably the easiest way to look at this, the most rudimentary way to look at it. So let's assume you don't have a place to work out of. All right? Now, you can leave this blank, and we'll even go back and erase it later, and you'll see it doesn't change things a whole lot. But let's just assume you have to go out and find a workplace, and let's say you find a cheap room to rent, and it's going to cost you $400 a month. Okay, 400 times 12?
4,800.
Is it?
I was like,
we're talking about doing math, and I can't do shit. All right, let's do this. Let's get the calculator out, and let's make sure our two dumbasses can actually do this right. So 12 times 400 is 4,800.
Okay.
Good job. You were right. Okay. So 4,800. Insurance. If you're in our business, you have to have insurance, right?
Right, and that's depending on what you have. What, $150 a month or so?
It depends. I pay, no, it's actually a lot less than that. I pay through PPA. Professional Photographers Association. I pay $600 and something for the year, and that includes drone insurance. That includes a $50,000 aggregate property damage coverage for my drone. It doesn't cover my drone itself. It covers if I do any damage to property, which is pretty good. So between liability, drone, and E&O, I'm paying about $670 a year, which is pretty good. And you got to have E&O insurance. If you don't have E&O insurance, you're just dumb. All right, really important to have E&O insurance. So let's
For the second people listening, what is E&O?
Errors and omissions insurance. So if you completely botch somebody's wedding and they sue you, errors and omissions insurance will help to defend you in that instance.
Right.
So as long as your contract specifically says, if I screw your wedding up, you're only liable for a refund up to the value of what you paid. That needs to be in your contract, because otherwise you're opening yourself up to punitive and emotional damages, and that can be unlimited.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever a judge deems the emotional factor is, you can get hammered. It can put you out of business.
Oh, yeah.
Easily put you out of business. And if you're not an LLC, guess what? They can come after your personal assets. So stay the fuck away from that, right?
Step one, LLC.
Exactly. So errors and omissions insurance, you got to include that in there. I'm paying about $650 a year for all this stuff. It's pretty good. Shop around, get quotes. Online subscriptions. So this would be like Google. Now, it's funny. We were talking about this last night with Gmail. Gmail is not free anymore if you're a business. I mean, you can get a free Gmail account if you don't mind your brides emailing you at abcvideocompany@gmail.com. If you want to connect your domain and actually have it be, rob@thevideocompany.com, you're paying $11 a month minimum for the G Suite. Right? So right off the bat, give it to me. $132 plus. Now, listen, you don't have to go crazy and use MediaZilla. If you're not familiar with MediaZilla is, just Google it. It's an online delivery platform. But let's say you were going to jump into that. That would be another $500 a year minimum.
Right.
And then Vimeo. Let's just go with, again, conservative numbers. Let's go with Google and Vimeo.
Right.
Get yourself a Vimeo Plus account. I think it's $50 a year.
And what does that really give you again?
It gives you some branding, some customization options on the player. Okay. So let's do 50 a year. It might even be 59, but whatever. Just do 50 a year times 12.
600 without me.
So add that up. What do you got?
600 plus 132 plus 500 equals 1112.
So let's just say 1,100 a year. Okay, 1,100 a year for online subscriptions. Web hosting, it costs me about like $110 a month to run my website. Okay, just to keep it up and running, re-register the domain every once in a while. So let's just say $1,200 a year, okay? Music licensing subscriptions. All right, so you got to use licensed music.
Yep.
There's
many options out there.
There's an expensive way to go and there's a cheap way to go. All right, I actually use Soundstripe for most of my stuff. I don't even
stuff.
I don't even subscribe to anything else now. So I'm using Soundstripe. And I was using Artlist for a while, but their catalog was weak. And then I was using the Music Bed, Marmoset, and Song Freedom. But that shit just got expensive after a while. So I decided to not go that route, and I decided to just stick with one of them that had the broadest catalog that suited my needs.
Right.
And Soundstripe did. So I'm paying, I think, $120 a year for Soundstripe, unlimited music. Pretty damn good. Okay.
Right.
Now, I did have another field over here on the right-hand side that says per song music licensing, and that's for if you're just buying the songs instead of a subscription, but everybody's moving to subscription now, so
It just makes more sense. It's easier. It's peace of mind.
yeah, just put in whatever you use there. So, all right. We're going to skip over all the rest of this down here.
All right, one
for
question
now.
though,
Go.
because one line item. So back here on
No question.
The whatever's above web hosting, I can't read what it says, but I know it's like the subscriptions and stuff like that. Studio management.
That's a good one. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, if you've got 30 weddings, chances are you're not keeping track of that shit in spreadsheets. You're going to need some sort of a contracting invoicing system, whether it's QuickBooks or something like that. We're using 17 Hats.
Same.
What does it cost? Because we get it for free.
45-ish, 45 a year. So if you add that up to 1,100, it's 1,640 now.
45 a month, you mean?
Yeah, 45 a month.
So 1,600 a year. So let's add that into online subs.
16 total for
so
the whole.
27. All right, so 27 total. Good. I'm glad you pointed that out. I completely forgot about that because we don't pay for it because they just give it to us. So lucky us. So anyway, we're going to skip over all this crap on the bottom. Now we'll come back to it because this is what I would consider expenses that are important. But when you're getting into the business first offhand, it's not essential.
Exactly.
Okay. Probably beneficial to do marketing and advertising. And, you might have to do some of it. But we'll circle back to this and you'll see why in a few minutes. It's a whole other thing, and we'll get into that. But we're going to touch on it, though. Don't worry about that. We're going to jump over now to cost of sales. By the way, you do see at the bottom of this cost of business category that our total per year expenses so far to operate the business, including studio, insurance, online subscriptions, web hosting, and music subscriptions, is going to be about $9,400.
Right.
Or almost $9,500. Okay.
And if you add, the legal stuff, it's all right at 10.
Yeah, I mean, you might need a lawyer to draft up a contract. These are other things. You're actually pointing things out that I didn't even think about. So all things to consider.
That one number, it's not 27. It's 1640 for the year for subscriptions.
Total.
Yes.
Sorry, my mistake. All right, 1640. So jumping over now to cost of sales. This is what it's going to cost you per job.
Okay.
To complete a job and deliver it, thereby getting paid.
All
right. So right off the bat, you see that this field has populated over here in yellow, and that's meant to mimic or mirror what's happening over here in the initial investment category. What this number of 566 represents, that over the course of 30 jobs, this is the amount of money per job that you're paying yourself back in order to recoup the investment to get into business. So many people don't factor this in. They think that once they bought the equipment, it's like, oh, the equipment's mine, and they don't have to recoup that investment. No, absolutely, you have to recoup that investment. It's all about ROI. That's all business is. It's return on investment, right? So $566 over the course of 30 weddings will get you right about there. It might be a little bit over, actually, but that's going to get you this money back. Now, wedding day labor. Let's assume you're going into the business, you're going to be a solo shooter. Okay. Maybe you could run a couple cameras yourself. You're going to run yourself crazy going back and forth to bride and prep.
Lifespan, yeah.
Yeah, it depends. But listen, a lot of guys do the grind in the beginning, and that's what they have to do. Maybe they're a husband and wife team, and they don't have to pay out labor. Okay, and they can split up and share the load. So,
well, if they do that, just so we're clear, if they do that, they split $60,000 a year, divide by 2.
Right, it's per household, exactly. Yeah. Right. So let's think of it this way. Let's assume that you're going to hire a second shooter. Okay, and let's say let's keep it low. The guys here and the girls here, ladies and men in New Jersey and New York are going to laugh at this, but I'm going to say about $400 because you got to factor in the rest of the country. I don't think in Kentucky or Alabama, they're paying second shooters $800. I don't think it's happening. I don't think they're commanding enough on the job to be able to pay that labor cost and to absorb it. So let's just, again, conservative numbers, right?
Yeah,
so let's go ahead with $400 for wedding day labor. Okay? That's going to be per job. Post-production labor. Let's say you're going to be smart and not edit all 30 of these jobs yourself, because that's just fucking suicide. That's going to be, not only are you working your ass off on the weddings, but you're going to be working your ass off all week, and you're going to leave yourself no time to run your business.
Exactly.
To market, to grow it, to advertise, to,
keep yourself
network.
From burning out.
Exactly, right? So let's assume you find an editor who can do the jobs. Again, conservative numbers. Let's say you're offering a very modest product, like an 8-minute creative highlights, maybe with docs. Let's assume $500 per edit. It's low. I know it is. But again, conservative numbers. It's the whole point of this. The whole point of this is when you plug your actual numbers in here, you'll get a realistic picture. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how this works. Travel, getting back and forth to the jobs isn't free. There's gas, there's wear and tear on your vehicle.
Jersey tolls.
There's tolls, possibly wherever you might live. So this can add up. Parking. Let's just assume $30 a job. It's low. Again, let's just throw something in there. Okay? Right. Now, all of these numbers are being calculated by 30 weddings. Okay? So every time I put one of these numbers in, it's being multiplied by a factor of 30. Okay? Because that's how many weddings we're doing. Physical products and shipping. If you decide you're going to offer USB drives, or
people
DVDs.
Still send those?
Yeah, I still get people buying USB drives.
Do you still do the DVDs?
God, no. No, I don't do DVDs and Blu-rays anymore. Thank the fuck, no way. So physical products and shipping, let's just assume $25 a job, whatever. And then per song music licensing, if you're doing it that way, this is where you put that number in. I'm not going to put that number in.
Yeah,
so now, down here at the bottom, total per year, cost of sales, 30 weddings. Calculated all this together, $45,630. That just changed things a lot. Okay, so now you look down here on the bottom, $105,000 in gross sales, 30 weddings at $3,500 a piece on average. Total costs, $54,040, leaving you a net profit of $50,960. That went way down now, right? And then your income tax is $17,836. Now this number did change because now you're factoring some deductions. Okay, so this number did actually, I think it decreased from what we had before. It might have increased. I have to go back and look. Anyway, that leaves you with a net income of $33,124. What happened? $33,124. That is not a lot of money. Even if you live in the Midwest, that's really not a good income. Okay, and look at how much you're working. You're busting your ass. I mean, you're working your tail off trying to run this business. Okay, now let's take it a step further. Let's look at the hours that we're going to spend working. And this is where the proof is really in the pudding. All right, to borrow a really cliche phrase. Let's assume that you're offering your brides a 10-hour day.
All right.
Pretty standard. Okay, most videographers, I'd say you're on the job 10 hours. You're telling your brides, yeah, we'll start an hour and a half before preps or before ceremony or first look, and then you're going through to most of the party at least. If not the end of the party, that's a 10-hour day. Okay. Not every wedding is also 30 minutes from your house. A lot of times you're driving far. Okay. So factor in an hour of travel here and there. So a 10-hour day plus 2 hours of travel potentially, that's 12 hours spent per wedding. That's, by the way, not including the time you're spending charging batteries, packing your bags, quality assurance, making sure you have everything you need. You know all that preparation you do a couple days before or a day before?
Absolutely. I'm going to co-sign with that completely because it's not so till recently I really started to track my prep time. That prep time is kind of killer when you think, oh yeah, I'm going to do, just talking about cameras from shelf to bag. A lot of times it's more than just an hour. It's like,
Oh, it's way more than an hour. I mean, absolutely. I'm always circling back. I'll put batteries on charge and then I have to come back and deal with it again. Then packing the bags. I mean, it's a lot. And then also the morning of, everything's revolving around that wedding.
Exactly.
So you get up in the morning and your whole day, your whole thought process is spent on that. I consider that working hours.
Oh, as well you should.
Right? So, and we'll keep it, again, conservative, 12 hours. Okay? Because that's what in most people's minds, they're going to say, oh, it's 12 hours. Okay, fine. It's 12 hours. Now, what that did was that calculated up your total worked hours per year on your weddings is 360 hours.
Okay.
When you take that number and you divide it by this net income number, what does that get you? Your hourly wage is $93. Not too bad, right? Who doesn't want to make $100 an hour?
All right.
Right?
All right. I feel like that's going to be a butt here soon.
Great. Yeah, there's a big ass but. That's not all the work you're doing. The real work comes in your office, in running the business. It comes with maybe your editing, your marketing, your networking, your promoting. You're doing social media. You're doing all this crap that adds up in time, okay? Let's assume that in addition to shooting your 1 or 2 weddings a weekend, now you have to put in a 40-hour work week. And I'll be honest with you here. I don't get a 40-hour work week. I got 2 kids. My wife travels a lot. If I'm lucky, I get 30 hours a week.
Uh-huh.
If I'm lucky, I get 30 hours a week. And if I'm shooting weddings, it's probably even less than that because I'm taking Monday off. All right? So, I don't know. How many hours would you say that you work in the studio? Well, I know you have your situation is a little different.
I'm a little bit wild.
Take a guess on maybe what a videographer would spend working on their business in the studio or in their home office or whatever they're doing.
And we're not talking about editing.
We're talking,
with editing too.
You got to make a judgment call here.
Okay.
No, let's assume not, because we factored in the price of paying for editing. So let's assume not editing.
All right. So I would say, and here's where I'm breaking this down. I'm factoring in maybe 2 hours for emails, morning, evening, checking them. That way it's not really consuming, but you're, doing thrown out emails, even with templates. It could take that once you get busier. And then let's factor in another hour or so to come up with new marketing content. That's roughly a day. So three, and then, I'm going to factor in another hour or two of just you sitting in front of computers thinking you're working, but you're, distracted by something, but that, you're still...
What about social media?
That's what I'm trying to say. That you start to work for social media, then it's back and forth. It takes longer sometimes than necessary.
What about all the legal work? What about all the shit that you have to do with sending out contracts and invoicing? Managing the accounts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Managing accounts. It's not
consultations.
Just consultations. I mean, all this stuff. You could easily make a 40-hour work week.
I would say between 30 and 40, you should definitely.
We're going to say 40. We're going to say a 40-hour work week. And listen, if you're doing a 40-hour work week and then you got a wedding that weekend and you're working 12 hours, look, you might be working 70 hours a week with 2 weddings and then trying to fit in all the work you have to do during the week. I know when I first started my business, I never stopped working. I never stopped working. I was working all the time. All right? 40. And now watch what happens. When I hit enter, watch what happens to that bottom number.
And there it is. There's the reality.
When you factor in now 40-hour working week, plus the hours you're spending on your wedding, the total hours worked per year now jump up to 2,440 hours. Okay? I still think this is conservative. Mm-hmm. I think most people who run a business work 60 to 70 hours a week. Okay? You take that net income of $33,124, you divide that by that many working hours at the prices that you're charging. What is it they're trying to push for now? A universal minimum wage of $15 an hour?
Yes.
$14 an hour to run your business. To bust your ass.
And that's for, a number of emails you'll get throughout the year saying, I think that's a little bit higher on your price.
Very true. Very true. I get that all the time. And, I'm in a higher price bracket, but I mean, I'm certain there's people charging $3,000 to $3,500 for weddings who get that all the time. No, you're just too expensive, right?
Exactly.
So it's a numbers game. The more leads that you process, the more leads that you handle, and the more people and more faces you get out in front of, it's a numbers game. It's like dating.
Yeah, we're talking about 30 weddings a year. So, let's say the person who sees this is like, okay, their first thought might be, which I hope it's not, but it might be, I should shoot more weddings. That's 30 weddings a year. If you do that, I get it, a lot of people will shoot a lot more weddings. They do volume, but this is video. It's not an easy turnover. I'm not trying to say it's easy for photography. I'm trying to say with video, there's a lot more moving parts in the post side of it. So if you start going past 30 weddings, that's you're doing a lot of work there.
I would say at some point it becomes unmanageable.
I would agree.
Unless you're bringing on other crews and sending out associate crews and associate people. But then it gets hairy. I mean, then if you're not decreasing your cost of sales or keeping your cost of sales the same while increasing your profit point, you're not making more money. You're just working yourself harder, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is what's scary. Now, we're going to take it a step further than this. Watch this. We got to promote our business.
Oh, wow. We got to put all that in there. Oh, my God.
Let's say now it's your second year in business and you successfully did this the first year and you made crap. And now you're going into your second year and you got to start pumping your business. Now you get a portfolio. You're going to start pushing it out there. Marketing and advertising. Smart marketing people say you take 10% of your net income and you reinvest it back in your business. So let's say
that's what I was thinking too, by the way. 30,000. I was thinking about $300 or so a month.
Right. Okay. So what would that end up being? That would be roughly a little bit more than 3,000 for the year, right? 3,100 for the year. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just say we'll just say 3,000.
Okay.
Marketing and advertising, and that's everything from Facebook ads, maybe Instagram promoted posts, or Google ads,
mail out these fancy flyers.
Yeah, if you're doing direct mail, if that's something that you feel would work, whatever floats your boat, whatever you think is going to work for your business and the situation. Continuing education. Let's say you want to go to a conference or you want to go to a wedding film retreat where you get to, hang out around a campfire and learn about wedding films.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? That shit's expensive. I mean, the attendance fees can be $1,500 and then you got to get there.
For next week.
Right. So how much is it costing you to go to WPPI?
All right. So WPPI, I think it's about $400 for my conference pass plus It was 150. Excuse me, 400 for my conference pass plus 150 times 2 for my flight plus it's about $1,000. I'm staying a little bit longer than the average person, but it makes it so I'm not stressed out traveling. For the hotel, I'm already at $1,700. That's not counting.
What about airfare?
Well, that's what I put in there, 135-ish
Okay.
each way. Oh, and the parking my car for that long. All right, so that.
But you're driving out there. You're not taking a cab from the airport.
No,
You're
I'm talking
actually...
about parking my car at the airport.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, that definitely adds up. So, let's see here, 24 times, leaving Saturday, coming back Saturday, times 7. All right, so roughly think about $2,000. That's what my week at WP will be without food and drink, because let's be real here.
Yeah, and it's important because you do want to network with the industry. You want to make connections, maybe find some shooters that you can or people you can outsource to. I mean, there's actual benefit to doing this for your business.
Absolutely, it's
so I'm not trying to
that too.
I'm not trying to inflate the numbers here. I'm trying to give a realistic picture because a lot of people who want to be involved in the wedding film business want to be involved in the community as well.
Exactly.
So that's going to be $2,000. Insurance deductibles. You watch. I dropped a freaking lens the other day. It's going to cost me $500 to fix it.
I've even told you about this. I've been battling for a lens too. Exactly the same thing.
So you figure now these are what ifs. These are big what ifs.
Oh, you will eventually.
But
drop
I'm just
a
saying,
lens.
if all of this shit happens and the stars are not aligned for you and all this stuff happens, this is what it's going to cost.
At 30 weddings a year, you're dropping something.
Right. Replacement gear. Now this would be things that aren't covered by insurance. I dropped my audio recorder. Now I have to buy a new one. It's a $300 audio recorder.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's assume you have to drop something. You have to replace it. Let's go cheap. $150. All right.
Wow. Okay.
Association. I'm being conservative. Association memberships. So I get my insurance through PPA,
$30.
but it's contingent on a $300 a year association fee. All right, so $300 to belong to PPA. It's worth it. It's worth it. They give you $15,000 in equipment insurance. It's good. Office supplies, consumables. You have people in, you're serving coffee, you're serving little cakes.
Good coffee, hopefully.
Chocolates, whatever it is. Office supplies, I don't know, $200 a year.
Yeah, that's it.
Bridal expos. You got to get out in front of brides. You know, your face, maybe, listen, when I first started my business, bridal shows is where I got a majority of my
You have to start somewhere because you
leads.
don't have the word of mouth, so you have to do stuff
And
like
that was before the Knot and Wedding Wire, which we didn't even factor in here. Listings on the Knot and Wedding Wire, if you decide to go that way, and most people do. But bridal shows are going to cost you about $400 a piece, minimum. And they're probably laughing at me. It's probably more than that. Meals and meals and entertainment. Meals and entertainment. By the way, let's assume we do 2 bridal shows. Meals and entertainment. Every once in a while, you want to treat your crew, or you have a second shooter.
That's what you should.
Come on, let's go out. We'll go out for a couple drinks after the wedding.
And that's an
whatever.
easy $50-$60 a night.
Let's just keep it conservative, $100, and then office labor
For a whole year.
Yeah, well, I'm again conservative. Office labor. Let's assume now you're finding it really hard in that 40 hours to get all your work done. You need some help. You need somebody to at least answer phones. You need somebody to at least answer leads, maybe do social media for you. Maybe you're paying them somewhere in the neighborhood of like $16 an hour, $15 an hour, which is ironically more than you're earning. Let's assume you're paying them $10 an hour. You find a kid to do it.
Let's say 12.
All right. 12, fine.
How many hours?
12 times 10 a week, 120 a week times 52. Roughly speaking, guys, I know it's not exact.
So it's like $6,240.
All right, I'll bring that down to $5,000.
All right.
Okay. Now watch that hourly wage number, because this is going to be a ripple effect. It's going to increase our cost of business, which is going to affect our tax rate because it is deductible. Some of it. $11 an hour.
That's what the owner of the business, the CEO, the head honcho makes per hour.
Is that fucking bananas?
It's crazy. It's beyond crazy.
This is math, guys. I'm not making this shit up. This is not like me trying to go, oh, the wedding video industry sucks. The wedding video industry is highly lucrative.
When done right.
I make a nice living off of this, okay? The inherent problem is people are not charging what they're worth. And I hear the market argument all the time, like I'm in a small market and I can't command $5,000-$6,000 for a wedding film. And I say bullshit, and it might be true in some cases, but I was talking to somebody who has a very successful business out in Arkansas, like Little Rock.
Right.
And it's a city, I get it. but he says he's earning like 10 grand a wedding, and he's doing like 40, 50 a year.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Wow,
and he's
that's not pretty good. That's really good.
And he's also mastering the art of upsells. So he's doing a lot of like after sales and offering upgrades and upgrade packages and all this kind of stuff to make, incentive for people to spend more money. So maybe they get in at 6 or 7, but by the time after sales happen, you get up to around 9 or 10,
exactly,
which is roughly what my cost structure is. I start out around like 7 or 8, and then with add-ons, I can easily get them up to 11 or 12 per wedding.
But, I mean, this is my opinion. With wedding videos, you can have a lot of offerings for upsells, but like, you don't have the full catalog of some other industries for the upsells. You might have, a handful of them, but what?
Yeah, you certainly don't have the upsell capability of what a photographer does. My wife kills it on after sales.
There's so many things that you can
I mean, she makes more on her after sales than I almost do in a year on just the weddings.
I can believe it.
It's insane.
And that's not to say she's pricing like out the stars. It's just there's options. Like when you make an album, when you start adding spreads, you can easily add a lot of spreads.
Yeah. But let's keep it about video. I mean, so like what I offer as upsells is like extra creative minutes on the highlights film, doc edits if they didn't have doc edits, and I offer it as, ceremony only or the whole day. USB drives, MediaZilla as an add-on, raw footage, of course. I mean, so there's things that you can sell and add on. We do video books.
Okay, I saw that.
which are really cool, and people are buying them. People are buying them. So there's real things that you can use to increase your bottom line, and that's pure profit. That stuff. I mean,
looking at $11 an hour, I'd say you need to.
My God, I mean, so think about this, guys. If you're a wedding videographer and you're charging $3,000 to $3,500 a year, a wedding rather, and you're doing 30 a year, which I consider a lot, you're not making a whole lot of money, man.
I mean, I don't know about anybody else listening to this, but I mean, I think I'm probably going to plug my stuff in like later on tonight. I might have a little cry session later.
I'm telling you, man, it'll open your eyes, and that's what I want this to do. I want this to be an eye-opener for people because, there are a lot of people who get up on a stage in this industry and they easily say, you need to raise your prices. You need to raise your prices. I do multi-million-dollar weddings. You need to raise your prices. That's fine, all well and good. You just have to know. You have to, you're not just a wedding videographer. You have to be a marketing expert. You have to know how to go out and find those clients. Too. You have to be a salesperson. It's more than just you can't be a fly on the wall and be a successful wedding videographer unless you're doing a shit ton of weddings and keeping your cost of sales really low. And even then, I would question whether you're making 6 figures in net profit. So, I mean, I hope people use this. I'm going to put it out there with this video and like see. I'm curious to see your feedback too. I'm curious to see what people. I want to hear what you have to say personally. Like, when you do this,
section's for,
yeah. But I mean, there's so much to consider when you're starting a business and doing the math, and I just don't think a lot of people do it. And I think it's bringing down the whole industry, the curve, for what people expect to pay for a wedding film.
Bride or groom or whatever. It makes it difficult because, like, again, I've heard this before where it's like, this is their first time doing this. When they start looking at the vendors, this is their first time looking at this. So when they start looking at, say, however big your market is for wedding videographers, and they start seeing the prices fluctuate drastically, that curve throws everything. It throws the average, like what their mind is, to a whole different place.
But do you think it's the same for photographers? Because you have photographers that charge $15,000 to walk out the door, and then some that do it for $3,000. So, I mean, but I feel like photography overall, people are adept and used to being required to spend a fair amount of money for good photography. And I think it's gotten better for wedding video over the years. I think it's gotten much better. I think the what people expect to pay has increased. But when the knot says that the average wedding film costs $1,750, there's no fucking way that's accurate.
I like to see their numbers on that.
I don't buy it.
In my opinion, you should look at stuff like this every month because you should adjust to figure out what you're doing to meet quarterly, half-year goals and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a good point. That's
a good point. I haven't even updated mine, to be honest, because I'm constantly changing my pricing. Like, because I have that rule where every time I book my top package, I raise my prices.
Well, I mean, it's a good
or if
rule
I hit my quota for the year, I'll just jack my prices up.
Well, yeah, the quota or that, but it's also good just to be able to set goals. Like, if you need to make this per year, you're not making it this quarter, you got to do something.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to start doing a moonlighting job plus do 30 wedding films a year. I don't think it's going to work out too well for you.